Hello everybody and welcome to another Rise of Kingdoms video. This is Dragothian here, and today we're going to be talking about the leadership talent tree and why it's important to know the different talents inside of this tree so that you can better maximize your commanders on the battlefield and doing rallies and all kinds of fun stuff inside of Rise of Kingdoms. Let's get into a couple different things in this video, one being which talents that you should actually make sure that you absolutely get if you have a leadership commander. Two, what you should do in the beginning of the game versus the end of the game, because those are two different things with this talent tree that are very important to understand, because as you get to the end of the game, some of these talents might not necessarily make the most sense to have. So we'll go through that. And then finally what we're going to be doing is we're going to just go through everything. Should you have it maxed out like this? Should you have pieces of it? What does this talent tree work with as far as other talent trees? We're going to go through all of it. I want to make sure that you know everything that you have to know about this talent tree so that you can best maximize your builds. So with that being said, let's kind of jump into it here. And first we're going to start off with some of the critical talents inside of this tree. First off, fresh recruits at the bottom left. That gives you a maximum of 3% extra troop capacity. That means that you can bring 3% more troops to the battlefield. Obviously, having more troops is going to give you a better sustainability. It's going to give you higher damage. And just as importantly, it's going to give you more troops generally than your opponent. So if you're equal, which sometimes you're not, sometimes you are, sometimes you're better, that's just going to give you more troops left over after you fight that opponent. Meaning you can move on to fight other things, you can retreat and have safety when you're retreating, you can do whatever you need to do. Maximum troop capacity increases are always a good thing. The other one is called Healing Herbs. This one will give you a healing effect increase. So let's see if you had a primary leadership commander and then you had Richard as a secondary. His heal would be enhanced by Healing Herbs by 9%. Same thing for Pelagius. Same thing for Double C. All these commanders do heals. So those healing effects will be increased. It will be enhanced by 9%. So that's a good thing to have if you have a healing commander inside of your double commander army. If you don't, then this is kind of a waste of a talent, but unfortunately, this is a required talent to unlock the rest of the stuff, including one of the most important talents in this tree. But we're going to get there, okay? Let's go to the middle two. The one on the left is called Steely Soul, increasing normal attack damage by 1.5%. Nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing special either, so it's just a matter of, again, do you need to unlock the left side of the talent tree, which again, you're probably going to want to depending on what type of commander you're running, but we're going to go through that in just a second. Hidden Wrath, this is going to increase rage, which again, you're going to want to have as much rage generating as possible, especially considering with the leadership talent tree being a primary commander, you don't generally have a whole lot of other rage regeneration abilities unless you have the skill talent tree or the support. And really, you're not going to have that many of those commanders that have that capability. A lot of times with leadership talent tree folks, you're going to see a lot of attack talent trees which don't have too much rage regeneration. So Hidden Wrath is a very, very good talent to have so that you can crank out as many active skills as you possibly can. Okay? So very, very good skill as well on the way up the talent tree, right? Now, the next tier are the ones that kind of veer off to the side there. Those are Armed and Armored to the Teeth. And before I get to those, this is where we need to kind of understand where we're at in the game. So with Armed and Armored to the Teeth, and we'll go ahead and start with Armored to the Teeth since it's on the left, and we'll work our way right. Armored to the Teeth increases or reduces the damage that you take by 3%. And that's all damage. So troop damage, skill damage, additional skill damage, AoE damage, whatever you want to call it, that's what you're going to reduce, okay? So if you have a mixed troop army, this takes effect. So you need to have, there's 4 types of troops, okay? And realistically, once you get to the point in the game where you're far enough along, you really should only be bringing infantry, archers, and cavalry to the battlefield. Don't bring siege if you can get away with it. I mean, if you have to bring siege, you bring siege, right? When you're starting the game out, you're going to be bringing siege. Don't worry about it. Don't freak out. You're probably going to run into the same type of people on the battlefield that are in the same exact position as you are, okay? But that being the case, you need to have at least 3 of those. So if you have 3 of those types of troops in your army, this will take effect. This is a huge bonus to you as a mixed troop commander because you're losing some of the potency of the single troop type talent trees, like the infantry, archer, and cavalry talent trees. They give very significant bonuses to when you have a single troop type army. When you're early starting out in the game, it's almost impossible to do that unless you really start to crank out a bunch of troops and power up and things like that. So armed to the teeth and armored to the teeth are both really, really good to have because they're going to increase the type of army that you're likely to have on the battlefield, which is armored giving you a damage taken reduction, and then armed to the teeth increases all damage dealt by 3% as well. So conversely from armored, when you go to armed, it's a 3% increase to all damage. Again, that is AoE damage, skill damage, troop damage, additional damage, all of it. It's all boosted, okay? So you want to have these two whenever you're, especially in the early game, because a lot of your armies are going to be mixed troop. And that's why in the beginning game, a lot of folks tend to max out your Scipios, your Joans, which Joan doesn't have a leadership tree, but she does have these types of skills, or these types of talents. Julius is a very, very big commander in the game. If somebody powers into the game, Hannibal Barca is like the cheese, man. You got to have him, right? As you get later into the game, these tend to not be as effective because, like I said before, single troop type armies are a little bit more potent than these are, okay? That being said, there's nothing wrong with getting those commanders up there. Just don't blow everything into them as you're leveling up. Do enough to be effective on the battlefield with your alliance, with your teammates, so that you can do what you need to do into the game, hopefully capturing that lost temple, hopefully getting Zone 2, Zone 3 access, all those good things at the beginning of a server and the beginning of a kingdom that everybody loves to do. So these are two really good talents inside of the leadership talent tree that you got to have, especially at the beginning. And if you're going to be in the later game and you've got a Julius Barca combination or a Julius and Osmond combination or Julius YSG combination or things like that, it may make sense to get some of these mixed troop type talents because you're going to have mixed troops sometimes. So if you do have mixed troops, I would say get these 2 talents. If you don't, then don't, because you won't be able to use them anyway. All right. Now we start to get to the meat and potatoes of this talent tree. And these are talents that if you have a leadership commander that you're going to use as primary, but aren't going to use mixed troops, you're going to want to have, especially if you're focusing heavily into a skill tree, okay, for instance, or heavily into the conquering tree, okay? You may want to get just pieces of this talent tree, and these are the 2 ones that you really want to pay attention to. So again, we'll start left to right, and then we'll finish off with the top talent there at the very end. So close formation, this is a very, very good skill, okay? The downside is that it only triggers when your army is at 50% health. So when the army led by this commander has been reduced to 50% strength, that means that if you went out on the battlefield with 200,000 troops in your army, once you hit that 100,000 troop threshold, this talent triggers, okay? But it increases your attack by 12%. So again, the problem with losing troops is that the less troops you have in an army, the less damage you're going to do. This talent kind of helps nullify a piece of that. It's not going to fix the whole problem, but it'll at least put a little band-aid over it so that you're causing more damage even though you're losing some troops. This could be the difference between you going back home with a sad face and kind of still being able to toss out a few buffs with a Scipio Joan army, or cause a few distractions with your army being on red, running around the side and maybe capturing an outpost or 2. That could be the difference, okay? So that's why this talent is so effective, and a lot of folks do choose to max out the left side of this tree and either grab armored to the teeth or not, but they'll grab that close formation because it's a quality skill or a quality talent to have, and it comes in handy in a pinch. The most effective talent, I think, in this entire tree is on the right side, though. Strategic Prowess. This is the talent that most people guarantee themselves to spec into if they're using a leadership commander on the battlefield as a primary commander. The reason this is so good, it's a huge defense buff. after using a skill, which you've got 2 commanders in your army, and realistically, those are going to fire off every 10 to 12 seconds. And the battery's dying. These are going to fire off every, again, 10 to 12 seconds, depending on how fast your rage regen is. That means that for 20%, you'll have a 20% defense buff for 4 seconds out of that 10 to 12 seconds, which is almost half the time. So again, the faster your skills go off, the more value this talent tree or this talent itself has. Okay, but this is one of those talents that you cannot pass up. If you have a leadership talent tree in your build as a primary commander, you're going to want to put some points to get this talent. This is a good one. Okay. Finally, let's go to the last one. It's Name of the King. It is strictly for rallies. And again, early game, this makes a lot of sense. Increases attack of the rallied army by 5% when it's maxed. But you need to take all the talents besides the armed and armored to the teeth to get there, which means that it takes 44 skill points to get to Name of the King. I think ultimately you can get away with maybe not having close formation as often as you have strategic prowess, which we just went over, and that would maybe save you 20 talent points or so to put elsewhere, like again in the skill tree to get Rejuvenate and Clarity and all those Heraldic Shield to get the skill damage reductions and things like that. There's more effective stuff than maybe just having a 5% damage increase, or not even damage, 5% attack increase of the rallied army that you're leading. I don't necessarily see the benefit in having that, especially with how many points you have to put into the talent tree all the way to get there. So, what are the critical pieces? Okay, fresh recruits are always good. 3% extra troop capacity that's a win. Healing herbs, if you've got a healer, this is a really nice buff for your heal. It's almost 10%. So on the battlefield, usually 2,500 to 3,000 heal from a Richard on average. Adding another 250 to 300 is not a bad idea. And then again, the 6 additional rage, always helpful, and you've got to get some of these to get to strategic prowess anyway. Strategic prowess is your main go-to in this entire tree. This is the one you want if you're going to have it as a secondary tree on a leadership style commander being primary, like say Frederick, right? You don't want to load this tree up for Frederick. You want to get all those skill damage and skill damage reduction taken stuff and rage regeneration and all that stuff getting a skill tree for Frederick, and then getting strategic prowess from the leadership tree alongside of maybe Moment of Triumph in the Conquering tree, which we'll get to later, I promise you. I want to do a little bit of everything here with this talent tree guide, playlist, all that good stuff. So again, I think that overall at the beginning of the game, leadership tree is almost king because a lot of folks don't have those maxed active skills at the beginning. So max Mina with that nice primary nuke going off and double C. You don't have a lot of legendaries out there, which means that the damages that you're giving bonuses to from a mixed troop standpoint go a lot farther earlier in the game than later in the game. So the leadership talent tree is really made for early and mid game, and then if you're going to use them for end game, you want to make sure you're using them for the right role. And with the leadership talent tree, there's some supportive talents in here that you're going to want to use on those commanders like a Frederick, but this is not going to be your main tree. Okay, your primary trees tend to be your blue trees, so your support, your skill damage trees, attack not so much. But with this tree, this is a good supplement to those trees. And then again, the yellow tree, the gold tree in the bottom left, those tend to be more for conquering, for gathering, like the additional stuff, right? So there's some pieces in all those trees that, again, make up a whole commander, but you really want to focus on support or skill. That's where your rage regeneration, your skill damage, your movement speed, like all kinds of stuff is going to be happening in those trees. So this is a good support talent tree, if that makes sense. Again, early game, hit these two mixed talents here to the left and right, and you're going to be in really good shape. Get yourself some extra troops in your army, and you'll be in really, really good shape. And then for those later game folks, and even the early and mid game too, strategic prowess is the cheese. You got to go get it. You got to have that. That's an amazing talent to have if you're using a leadership commander as a primary. And again, as you get to the later game, you're not tending to do that very often unless you're rallying, and even then you could do better. Okay, and then close formation, Good talent, not great, because you have to be half strength to use it. But again, if you've got the points, definitely worth those 4 points. I like the extra 12% attack. Really would not put those extra 5 points in the Name of the King. Even early game, it can help, but I don't know if those 5 points couldn't be spent elsewhere better. Okay? With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got a little bit of audio going on now because, again, I've upgraded my rig. I've upgraded my setup here. I'm going to get you guys some sweet ambient stuff going on and everything. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will go ahead and fire it off here. Cheers. Have a good one. And take care.